what about Barbuda? The first pictures have now emerged. And the Prime Minister, none other than the Prime Minister himself, journeyed to Barbuda, the sister isle, to view the devastation. And it has been a devastating picture that has emerged from Barbuda. It has been surreal devastation on the sister isle. This has been the result of Hurricane Irma's fury, a powerful Atlantic storm, one of the most powerful on record, 185 mile per hour winds crashing into the sister isle. That has been the result. We have with us the Prime Minister who will explain what has happened, what he saw for himself, and as a result, what will happen in relation to the immense relief effort that will now have to be mobilized. Prime Minister, good afternoon and welcome to our broadcast.
Thank you very much, Garfield, and I say a special good evening to all of your viewers and listeners. I have to admit that now the bearer of bad news, in that I journeyed to Barbuda this afternoon, and what I saw was heart-wrenching. I mean, absolutely devastating. In fact, I believe that on a per capita basis, the extent of the destruction in Barbuda is unprecedented. And it is unprecedented based on the type of storm. I mean, Hurricane Irma would have been easily the most powerful hurricane to have stormed through the Caribbean. And it is extremely unfortunate that Barbuda was right in its path. And what is instructive is that a difference of 30 to 50 miles involving a hurricane could make a major difference. Because whereas we may have had miles or wind strengths up to about 100 and probably 30 miles per hour, Barbuda evidently would have had 180, 185 miles per hour. And that has made a fundamental difference. From my observation, having done an aerial survey, I would say that about 95% of the properties would have suffered some level of damage. They would have lost at least a part of their roofs. Some have lost whole roofs. Some properties have been totally demolished. It is absolutely heart-wrenching. I mean, the infrastructure, the utilities infrastructure was damaged. The physical infrastructure was damaged. You'd recognize, too, that the island is literally underwater, and that in itself represents a serious threat in terms of mosquito-borne diseases, and we have to be very careful. In fact, you know that we are threatened now potentially by yet another storm, Hurricane Jose. And if that is the case and it's coming our way, then clearly we will have to evacuate the residents of Barbuda. In fact, I'm of the view that as it stands now, that Barbuda is barely habitable. And if we have yet another storm coming in a matter of days, we will have to make special arrangements to evacuate all Barbudans and bring them over here until we can restore some level of normalcy. But within the next, I'd say, 18 hours, we intend to mobilize a significant amount of resources to send over to Barbuda to provide some temporary relief. For example, this evening I will have a meeting with all of the various agencies, NODS in particular, to ensure that things like tarpaulin and other supplies could be sent over. We also need to have some more satellite phones in Barbuda. We took over one this afternoon, and I'm hoping we can get a few more so that they can communicate with us. What would have happened is that one of the telecommunications tower was actually broken in two. We have had a situation broken in two. We have had a situation too where we have seen several containers moved as far as 100 yards. In fact, the airport itself is also damaged because one of the containers that was alongside the airport was actually lifted by the winds and would have done some damage on the airport runway itself. So it cannot accommodate any form of airplane traffic, and that is why we had to use a helicopter this afternoon. So getting into Barbuda is a challenge. It was difficult to send any boats over there today because the seas are still very choppy, very dangerous. But I believe that by tomorrow we should be able to get a few boats in there with some supplies. And we will also employ the services of Caribbean helicopters to move supplies over to Barbuda first thing in the morning.
So, Prime Minister, let's unpack what happened, the immensity of the destruction in Barbuda. So, What happened to the residents while all of this happened? Where were they when all this destruction is happening?
Well, they were in their homes and they took the necessary precautions. In fact, I was speaking to the chairlady of the Barbuda Council up until about 1:30 a.m. this morning. And up to that point, she had indicated that all was well. A little late in the morning, I was told that residents had actually communicated that a few roofs were lost. But when you're on the ground and certainly in the dark of night, it would have been difficult for them to give an accurate assessment to the extent of the damage. So we are of the view here that perhaps the damage would have been limited, not recognizing, having done the aerial view, that the entire housing stock was damaged. And that, in essence, I would believe that the cost to repair the infrastructure in the homes in Barbuda will be no less than $150 million. And that is no exaggeration. I mean, it is just a total devastation. I mean, Barbuda right now is literally a rubble. And we have to raise a significant amount of resources now to rebuild Barbuda and to restore it to normalcy. The good thing about it is that we had already made some contingency plans. I have to admit that at one point we thought that they may not have been necessary. We did not cancel them. We have actually delayed some of them because we weren't too sure of the extent of the damage in Barbuda. It means now that we will activate those mechanisms. So tomorrow we have about 2 cargo planes full of supplies that will be landing here in Antigua. We had asked the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to assist us in providing 2 cargo planes, 2 military planes to move some building material probably out of Panama. So we will now pursue those options and to make sure that we can move building material into Barbuda as quickly as possible to start the rebuilding process. We never really anticipated this level of damage. I have to admit the standby overdraft facilities that we had from the domestic banks will make what is required here in terms of the amount of funds absolutely pale. I mean, the amount that they have offered, and we are very grateful, the extent of damage or damages will make that financial assistance pale, which means that we have to raise external resources to supplement our domestic resources in order to have a serious push to rebuild Barbuda.
So where are the residents now, Prime Minister?
They're shacking up with each other. Many of them are in some common areas. And that in itself represents a serious health hazard. In fact, I'll go as far as stating that at least probably 60% of the population in Barbuda is actually homeless. And even the areas in which they're sheltering, they're damaged homes, so that we're hoping that at least, they would not suffer from any of the elements between now and tomorrow, because if there's any significant amount of rains between today and tomorrow, clearly it will create some additional damages. Now, we had the unfortunate situation in which there has been a fatality. I'm told that an infant actually died as a result of the parent, the mother, trying to escape out of a property that was damaged. And during trying to make that escape, it seems as though something may have happened. We're not too sure if the person drowned, the child drowned, or what exactly is the cause of death. But unfortunately, we had a fatality. We're also doing some search and rescue. While we're there, we had one of the choppers. We went over there with 2 choppers. One of them actually doing a little preliminary circumnavigation of Barbuda to determine whether or not there are any other individuals who, to be rescued. We're not exactly sure whether or not there may not be additional fatalities, but so far we only have 1 that has been reported. So as I said, it's an absolute devastation. And this is no hyperbole. As a matter of fact, been there, and you have the pictures to show exactly what the situation in Barbuda is like. In fact, it really indicated why they were unable to communicate with us, because even though they had a backup ham system that was destroyed, they also had a satellite phone. That too was made inoperable. So they had absolutely no way to communicate with us. And I have to admit that we wish we could have gone over sooner, but the helicopter operators indicated that it was too dangerous to have gone sooner, and that is why we only made it over this afternoon. And we now have a better understanding as to what is happening. And I just want to assure the Barbudan people that the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda, we are standing with you. I've asked them to stand in solidarity with each other. I've asked them to be positive, notwithstanding this disaster, because we always have the view, notwithstanding the challenges, there will be opportunities to be exploited. And all we're asking is for them to be patient and to support each other, to be vigilant at the same time, and to cooperate with the government and the various agencies as we seek to bring some relief to the Barbudan people.
When you look at those pictures, Prime Minister, it seems almost miraculous that there was only one fatality because there was an absolute decimation.
Well, you're absolutely right. And again, I mean, I don't want to sound boastful, but it also speaks to the level of preparation. You'll recall that prior to the storm hitting Barbuda, myself and 5 of my ministers, we journeyed to Barbuda, and we took the time out to explain to the people how serious the storm was. We were doing our job, but the truth is they heeded that call, and we would have seen that they would have literally battened down, boarded up their homes. So from the standpoint of heeding the call, you know, we felt very comfortable that on that basis they would have, in essence, secured their own lives, their family lives, and if they had not done so, there would have been additional fatalities. There's no doubt about it.
Wow. It is extraordinary looking at those pictures, almost surreal. The Prime Minister there addressing the residents there on Barbuda, and now you understand why, for example, when we heard about what happened there and the decimation there, we could hardly remember the name of the hurricane. It's such a destructive hurricane, Irma. Prime Minister, so around about 1,200 residents there.
Well, it's more than 1,200. I mean, I know we've had varying figures, but I suspect we may have at least 1,800 people living on Barbuda.
Okay.
So I imagine the natural question would be how are we going to accommodate those individuals?
Right.
Look, whatever we have to do, if we have to rent private buildings to accommodate them, we will do so. Even if we have to use the old airport terminal, we will certainly find the facilities. In fact, just driving down on the airport road, I recognize that there's a new brand building just beside solid waste. If it is air conditioned, that will be a beautiful facility to rent. Whatever it takes to accommodate the Barbudan people, we will make sure that we do so, because at the end of the day, they are our people, they are our brothers and our sisters, and we have to make sure that we reach out a helping hand to them. I want Antiguans to keep our Barbudan brothers and sisters in their prayers, and many of them actually have friends and relatives here in Antigua, and we're calling upon those of you who can accommodate family members here and friends to do so willingly, because this is an absolute necessity. We know that many of them would resist the call for evacuation, but I hope they will heed that call just like they heeded the call to batten down. It is just as important for them to evacuate Barbuda and to allow us to pursue the actual recovery efforts, including securing many of those buildings. And the evacuation will be absolutely necessary, quintessential, if Jose threatens the region.
Okay, so let's be clear, Prime Minister. You're saying that the evacuation would only happen if Jose is coming. At this point, you wouldn't necessarily say go ahead with the evacuation.
I am of the view that those who could find accommodation in Antigua ought to do so, with or without Jose threatening Antigua and Barbuda. But I would not say that it should be mandatory at this point. I would say they should volunteer so to do. However, if Jose threatens Barbuda and Antigua, I would say that they have absolutely no choice but to evacuate. To do otherwise is literally to put themselves in danger.
And you're looking, Prime Minister, now at the picture of the cell tower that was snapped into.
Broken.
That's extraordinary winds to be able to do that, because that's metal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, you know, the Lord would have spared Antigua.
Absolutely.
Because the truth is, if we had winds up to 185 miles per hour, it would have been devastating. I mean, it would have damaged our telecommunications infrastructure. I do not know, for example, that the telecommunication towers that we have here, that they're any stronger than the one in Barbuda. So you can imagine what would have happened. So we have a lot to be thankful for, to be grateful. You know, I've said to people, and I don't want anybody to spin this to suggest that countries that get hit by a hurricane that they're not blessed. But I've always made the point that as Antiguans and Barbudans, we're blessed. And even though Barbuda did get hit, when you look at the limited fatality, in that there was one fatality, I am of the view that it could have been worse. And again, clearly the Lord was watching over us and spared Antigua and Barbuda wrath of the storm. Unfortunately, Barbuda was not as fortunate, but the damages could have been worse. The casualties, the fatalities could have been worse. We have a lot to be thankful for as a nation.
Prime Minister, the relief effort, this calls for obviously a significant relief effort. Just remind us of the measures that your government is going to be putting in place immediately.
Well, again, we have to raise resources, and we are also hoping that we can raise a substantial amount of domestic resources. We know that there are various organizations, to include the Red Cross. I'm sure that they will be putting together relief supply packages. We would like to encourage Antiguans to donate generously to this recovery effort as we seek to rebuild Barbuda. And I want to tell you, this rebuilding initiative will take years. But the whole idea is to try and at least, get the country habitable as soon as practicable, perhaps within a matter of months. But the way it stands right now, Barbuda is practically inhabitable.
Or uninhabitable, yes.
There's no electricity, no water, no telephone, no telecommunications, no WhatsApp, nothing. And there's the issue of food and water. That's a priority that we will resolve tomorrow by ensuring that we send over supplies to include food, water, additional medicines, etc. We will do all that is humanly possible to bring some relief to our brothers and sisters in Barbuda.
Prime Minister, you mentioned that the need for Antiguans to pitch into the relief effort. How can they contribute? How can individual Antiguans contribute to the effort here?
Well, we will keep them informed. I'm sure that there are various mechanisms that will be put in place. I would imagine that the Barbuda Council will probably set up a bank account to accept donations. I believe that the Red Cross, they will do their own thing in terms of raising resources. The Barbudans who are living on Antigua, they ought to form themselves into a committee and also collect supplies to send over to Barbuda. We also will have a challenge in terms of moving goods to Barbuda. So we're looking at the possibility that if we do not have sufficient transportation, that we may even have to acquire something, maybe a boat or so from some other country. But whatever it takes, I just want to reassure the Barbudan people that we are giving this our urgent attention, and we'll utilize every effort to bring some relief as soon as practicable.
Prime Minister, the final question. Just give me a sense of your own feeling, your own reaction the first time you saw those pictures from the air.
Well, I want to tell you, if I was a crying man, I would have cried, because that was just so heart-wrenching. I couldn't believe it. You see, when I looked at the damages here in Antigua, that they were so limited and Barbuda is so close, I never contemplated any possibility that you could have such a contrast. So when we flew over and we saw the extent of the damage, I want to tell you, I felt like crying, but crying will not help. It was really heart-wrenching. It was absolutely terrible. It's one of the worst feelings that I've ever felt in my entire life.
Wow.
It's really terrible.
And in terms of the reaction from the residents there, what kind of sense you got from them?
The interesting thing about it is that they're in relatively good spirits. I think they're actually in shock, to be honest, because I don't think that they really understand the magnitude of the damages, because this is going to take a significant amount of time to recover. And but however, they were in relatively good spirits, and I think that is good, because it's pointless, doing otherwise, in the sense that they have no control over these circumstances. What is important, though, is for them to continue to band together to help each other and to be as resilient as they could in the circumstances.
Prime Minister, we really appreciate your time. We know that you are running to have other meetings to discuss, for example, the relief effort, the significant relief effort that has to be mobilized.
Thank you again for accommodating me. And before I leave, let me commend ABS in particular. I have to say that the media generally would have done a good job in terms of sensitizing Antiguans and Barbudans to ensure that they're in a heightened state of preparedness for this hurricane. But I think that ABS Radio and Television went beyond the call of duty. I specifically would like to single out yourself, Jamal, and all the others, and clearly the management, to include Ernie Mae Hurst, who has done an excellent job. I know that there are times there are people who perhaps may have issues with Mrs. Hurst Brathwaite, but I want to say to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, Ernie Mae Hurst Brathwaite is doing an excellent job. And no matter how you feel about her, you must respect the fact that she has made this media organization into one to be reckoned with, not only here in Antigua and Barbuda, but throughout the Caribbean. And I tell you this much. I had a call this morning from the governor of the central bank, and he said to me that it is ABS who kept him informed. So I felt very proud. And all I want to say to the subordinates of Ernie Mae Hurst and let me not forget the minister, or Bradford for that matter. Let me not give Maxius any credit here. Let me also give the minister, the Honorable Melford Nicholas, significant credit, because he stood with the team, and I know some of the difficulties you have had to endure. And I just hope that after this excellent performance, which can compare to any other station globally, that you would have earned the respect of your staff and all Antiguans and Barbudans. And I just hope that you'll be given full support. I mean, all of the circumstances at ABS cannot be fixed overnight. But to lay those circumstances exclusively at the feet of the management is unfair. So I'm hoping that going forward that we'll see greater cooperation and respect for the management team that has done an excellent job. Again, I felt very proud that not only the governor of the central bank would have commended ABS, but I've had a number of calls from different international media, and it is ABS that they literally got the footages from and various stories. So you're doing an excellent job, and I ask you to keep it up. You are an inspiration for other public sector organizations. I'm always of the view that the public sector under my government should operate with the efficiency and effectiveness of the private sector. And from what I'm seeing here, you're literally outdoing the private sector. So well done. Keep it up.
Thank you, Prime Minister. It is really, really a great compliment coming from yourself, and I'm sure that Mrs. Brathwaite, the General Manager, and the rest of the management team have accepted that.
And the entire staff, of course,
absolutely.
Because without the support staff,
absolutely.
Clearly you cannot execute. So
absolutely.
The credit goes to all of you, but clearly I have to single out the management and certainly the Minister.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Pleasure. Thank you.
As we said, Prime Minister, the Honourable Gaston Brown, talking with us about the surreal images of devastation in Barbuda. It is absolutely mind-boggling, absolutely horrific what has happened in one night. And this is what has been the result of a powerful hurricane, Category 5 Irma. That is what it has done. The eye wall of that hurricane pretty much coming right over Barbuda. And in one night, it has reduced that sister isle of Barbuda to, as the Prime Minister said, pretty much uninhabitable at this point. We will be having much more from the Prime Minister's comments on Barbuda. We'll certainly be keeping across the story for you. Until then, I'm Garfield Burford. Thank you so much for watching, and pleasant viewing.
Thank you.
Tell me when you're ready. My name is Rhoda. I grew up in Barbuda. I witnessed Hurricane Lewis, and compared to that, this has been something that I've never imagined experiencing. It was horrible, it was devastating, it was sad, and it was tragic. And to see and hear everything that happened, being in the middle of it, being here, it's the most horrible thing that could happen here or anywhere else in the world. So, I mean, I just hope that everything can come together quickly and that people can move on and continue to build. And yeah, that was it. It's horrible.
Well, last night, my name is King Goldilocks. Last night was the most devastating experience I ever had in my life, and I am almost 60. I witnessed Hurricane Lewis, but it was never like this. This one is the worst and the most devastated, done more damage to Barbuda than any other storm that we in our lifetime have experienced. This storm came and did some damage to Barbuda. Really, almost 90% of the houses in Barbuda who don't lose the roof, the house crumbles. Some people totally lost. Like me, I am homeless, right? So I don't know. The Prime Minister is here today, and he's encouraging us to hold the fort, and he has promised that we'll be getting supplies and even evacuation to Antigua who wants to go. So once more again, I'm thankful to be alive. We only lost one life, a little infant, and praise God, it could be more, but thank the Lord that we had minimal loss of life, but we have maximum damage to properties.
I'm Henrietta Hopkins, and I had a terrible experience last night. I don't wish this on nobody's life, and I don't want to see a next hurricane like this. Because when I was in the house was boarded up, and something still come and bust the window, bust the bed in two, and we had to close the door, and it burst off the bedroom door too. So we had to leave at that place and go to our next house. It was very devastating.
Well, Miriam Harris. Well, I think this is the worst hurricane ever met up in all my life. I go from 60, 50, come down, and I tell you, last night was the worst time in all my life. And I would not want to see another hurricane like this again. That's just all I have to say.
I am Reverend Florentine Smith, pastor of the Barbuda Wesleyan Holiness Church. I wasn't really scared or anything. We had a prayer meeting and we believed and trusted God. However, He had His way. And I'm just sorry that one life was lost, but the church house is damaged. Also, the church itself is damaged. Lot of water and lot of the windows are broken and so on. But I believe God will help us to build back ourselves, and let us just keep the faith.
Hi, good day. This is Carrie Anna Baltimore Thomas from Barbuda. Last night was horrific, terrifying, a terrible experience. One and the only experience I've ever had of a category 5+ hurricane. Me and my family of 7, including an infant of 2 months, had to shelter in a closet. Before the hurricane force winds began, the roof had already gone from our premises and we had to go for shelter. Gratefully, the fireman, police officers came to our rescue and took us to a shelter. But my main concern right now is how we're going to survive after this, meaning that every house, every infrastructure, every utility that is there is completely damaged and gone. All of my family members, we don't even have a home no more. And the possibility of another hurricane heading in our direction is terrifying. I think we should evacuate. I'm pleading and I'm asking. Some of us do not have family members in Antigua. I do. But for those who don't, I'm pleading my fellow Antiguans, please help us out. We may need to evacuate by tomorrow or even Friday because this storm is possible to come on Saturday.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Zico Charles from Barbuda. Well, about the weather last night, it was very, very, very dangerous, and my home get destroyed. My family, we don't have anywhere really to go. We have to be by our mom, and also my mom's house get destroyed also. So I think it's the best thing right now to do for us to just get evacuated from Barbuda for the upcoming next weather about to come.
Yeah, well, my name is Shane John, better known as the Governor Soca Artist, Calypso of Barbuda. Boy, but me tell you right now, I have nothing to left back. My house gone, and last night, never witnessed nothing like this. And trust me, I don't want to witness nothing like this again, ever. Because I tell you right now, Barbuda is one state where I tell you right now, you got to take away. I don't know where you got to take for bring her back, but with God's help, we can come back. We keep your faith and just pray and go through. But me tell you, we lose everything right now. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I don't have no way for sleep. Trust me, I don't have no way for sleep. I don't know how I go out, my house gone. So I just hope and pray I can build back, because it can take me a lot. But Jah will help me, no rush. Yeah, bless.
I want to thank the Lord Almighty. Oh Lord, my house, I lose my home. I lose my shop. Also my vehicle, everything damaged. And right now, I don't have nowhere to go to sleep. I don't know, but we can thank the Lord that no life has gone, right? So we thank God for life, right? Without Him, we can do nothing. Nothing we can do right now. We just put our trust in the Lord just to help us, right? In the name of Jesus.
My name is Faxi Newton. I just want to say, if it wasn't for God, me, my brother, my sick brother, that just got a stroke, and my son was in that house. Right now, the half of the roof where my brother stay, the bed wet up, the galvanized is hanging over. If my brother was in that room still, my brother would be a dead man. I just want to give God thanks and praise. When the hurricane did come, me and my brother came for us after, and he take us down to Timbuk. When we were coming down, the other part starts. If it wasn't for God, we couldn't even get out of that pickup. They have to hold my brother, try to get him in the building. The wind have us all over inside of Timbuk one place. If it wasn't for God, after we get in, the structure for the coconut fall after we went in. So thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord, for save us. We're still in the land of the living, and I'm going to serve you. I'm going to serve you. I just want to pray and trust that the government will help me to build back that half of that roof in Jesus' name, so that me and my brother we can go back and live in there in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Wilma. Good. My name is Wilma, and I'm telling you, I don't have a house, and it's the first hurricane I'm witnessing, and I don't want to see no more. I'm telling you, it's the worst. Everybody in Barbuda have been damaged very badly. So I don't want to see no more hurricane. I really don't want to see no more. The first, and I hope it's the last. Thank you.
Well, last night, my name is Lorraine Baltimore. Since the storm started last night, my whole house caved in. It was 7 of us, and all we had to do was to pray and call for help. But the firemen came to our rescue as soon as they could have come. I have to thank God for life.
My name is Lutrell John, and last night was a horrible experience for me. My mom cried and my brother waked me up. I was frightened. I didn't know this was going to happen to me. But thanks to God, I went down by Timbuk and I got shelter, and thank God that I'm safe.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Biza, and I want to tell you a little bit about this hurricane. It's the worst experience of my life. I have 3 children, and we were all home with my 2 grand, and even my adopted daughter and my brother. And we were there in the house, and when the first part came, it's like the whole house was ripping apart. So anyway, my daughter asked me, Mommy, what to do? Call 911? So she did. And then after, when she did, they told her to go into the closet or use the bathroom. So that's exactly what we did. She went into the closet with her son, and we went into the bathroom. I started praying, and I asked God to just calm it so we can get out of this house, because the house was like tearing apart. Anyway, it was like it was sucking us up, because we were holding on to the bathroom door. And I keep telling the children, pray, God will help us. He will spare our life. And he did. And exactly when the eye was passing, now we came out. My son-in-law took us to a shelter, and days where we stayed until everything was over. Thank God, we are alive.
Great. Get me ready. Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant George, responsible for the runnings of Barbuda Fire Station. Last night was a very difficult evening for us. Our first rescue was about 9:30 last night, and then about 12, just about 12 thereabout, when the wind very real intense, we had to rescue a 3-year-old child, and that was one of experience that was really telling on us. We tell ourselves that, look, there's a child, we must go out. And while we were doing that, the roof of the fire station came off, put the men in more fear, but still that we know that we have a job to do, and we do it with all our might, knowing that it's our duty to serve this nation of Antigua and Barbuda, and we did it. We take several people after they calm there, just about 2 or 1:30 thereabout, to the hospital. Over 75 persons, because a lot of persons in Barbuda did not want to leave their homes. They figured that it was strong enough, and they decided to stay home to ride out the storm. But about 12:30 thereabout, they recognized that that was not possible at all. We had about 159 persons in shelter last night. The community center, which was one of the most designated shelter for Barbuda, did not stand up to the task. Also, the churches that we also used did not stand up to the task, so we had to use the Thomas Hospital to do the use for our shelters. And that stand up really well, even though while we were there, a lot of glasses and so on got broken up. But at the end of the day, while we're there, just understand that one little child lost his life, so to speak. And otherwise, so that things was pretty nasty. I can say that the wind was going. We figured there was a lot of tornado in that wind last night. So we did what we had to do to rescue the people of Barbuda last evening. Thank you.
Listen. Good day. Hello, I'm Evangelist Clifton Francois, and I'm telling you, certainly Barbuda is really in a devastating mode at this time. Last night was something I wish in my life that I would never have to experience again. Even within our radio studio, we had to house over about 30-something persons after the eye. I think most of the damage happened before the eye, and after that, we had to be out during the eye trying to rescue persons, and I'm telling you, it is something that I don't wish it forever to happen to anyone. We want to encourage everyone out there in Antigua, wherever you're watching, please, whatever you can do to support the people of Barbuda, because what we know that Barbuda will rise again. Have a blessed day.
Nacinta Ned, chairlady of the Barbuda Council. Where to begin? Where to start? This is just one word: epic. What we experienced is like something you see in a horror movie. It's something that you watch on TV, but not something you expect to actually happen in reality. I mean, persons were literally running from house to house, and we had cars flying over our heads. We had containers, 40-foot containers flying left and right. And the story that you're getting from most of the residents here is that the eye of the storm came just in time. Persons were literally tying themselves to their roofs with ropes to keep them down, holding on to doors. One lady told me she ran for cover in her bathroom with her 3 children, and up to this day, she doesn't know how she got them, all 3 of them, to fit into the bathroom cupboard, that small little space. She fit them in, and she just braced her back against the cupboard, and then the eye came. It's just, there's no words for this, but it's ridiculous. It's crazy.